Hey everyone, Mrhappy here, and welcome to Mondays with Mrhappy, aka Mrhappy Mondays, the weekly Q&A show where you ask me questions and I answer them. 2 days out from 5.4. I've got a pretty busy afternoon today. I don't have raid like I have the last few weeks. We actually raided this morning in preparation of the upcoming patch. But I do have to cook another pound or so of chicken. I got to cook some bone-in short ribs that I bought. I'm actually going to go to the grocery store before that and see if there's any other proteins or vegetables that I want to pick up. Like, I think I could use some potatoes or some broccoli or some stuff like that. And I want to make sure I got all my meal prep done for today. I also need to actually eat, and I'm not eating any of that meal prep, so I got to figure out what I'm doing for that too. Plus, I got some other stuff I got to do. So we still have a pretty busy afternoon. As for content this week, the majority of the uploads are likely going to be killing something for the first time, progressions on certain fights, and of course we will have a job change overview from the patch notes coming tomorrow, but it should be a pretty dense week. Once I'm cleared with the tier, we'll get some guides out quick this time. I will make sure that they make mention that they are week one, they are meant to be improved upon and should not be taken as gospel. That has been the big thing that has stopped me from releasing as many guides. Is I got tired of being treated as gospel, week one strats being treated as gospel. I am putting it in the guides that I do not want that. Please be open to newer, improved strategies as weeks go on and more people strategize. I'm just going to release the videos that I used to release with that little notifier at the beginning, and I'm going to hope that that's enough. It won't be, but I'm going to hope that's enough. So with that, let's get on to the Q&A after we thank our patrons. I wouldn't forget about you guys. Thank you for those over on Patreon who have been supporting the channel over there. We should be getting into some content creation, especially with 2021 around the corner. I'm going to be working on getting some other things back on the YouTube channel as well. Not necessarily old series, but just things that I'm currently working on, things I'm currently doing. Aloha stuff. Everybody loves Aloha stuff. So I've got some plans coming in. I've been actually enjoying the limited content creation time on YouTube while still doing my 50-ish hours of Twitch that I do every week. So thank you to all of you for supporting through those times and for supporting for the things that you enjoy. Also, thank you to our patrons of darkness, Khuja, Janova, and Kurenai Oni, both of which have gone above and beyond. And thank you to everyone tuning in for every episode, whether you're just liking the video, asking a question, commenting below, whatever it may be. Thank you for interacting. On that note, let's get to the questions so I can go eat. I maybe should have also made mention that I'm aware I'm wearing a green shirt and that, yes, it's going to look stupid the whole video. With that, question number 1. Hashtag Mrhappy Monday. Only the one Monday. I'm multiple. Hey, Haps, hope you're doing all right. I'm doing all right. You doing all right? I'm doing all right. Just one quick question since I haven't kept up with 14 news. Is there any updates coming to PS5 in a sense of a patch or upgrade anytime soon? Thanks for your time. Simple question, simple answer. So currently you can backwards compatibility play the PlayStation 4 Pro version on the PlayStation 5. Definitely improves performance, definitely improves the load times from the PS4 Pro. However, it is not an official PS5 version. They've made no official mention of a PS5 version, but they have said that if and when they do a PS5 version, which is, let's be honest, going to happen, that they will probably do an upgrade campaign. So that way, like with the PS3 to the PS4, you don't have to worry about buying the game again for the new platform, at least as long as you participate in the campaign during that time frame. So they seem to be well enough planning for it, just nothing official as of yet. Hashtag Mrhappy Mondays, plural. Hey there, Haps. Hello. Hope you're doing well and hyped for the new tier. I certainly am. I'm a longtime viewer with a personal question for you. Hey, listen, if it's a personal question I don't like, I won't include it. But either way, let's take a look. After following your channel for many years, I noticed how much of a staple you seem to be in the 14 community, whether with for your guides, streams, or content in general. That being said, there also seem to be some salt with your name. Of course there is. Most likely due to your name popping up as much as it does with most of the big names. My question for you is, how have you come to terms with your growth through the years? Have you noticed how far you've come or try not to focus on it too much? Conversely, how have the negatives affected you throughout the years and how do you deal with such issues? Apologies if this was too personal. Don't worry, it was not. I talk about this quite frequently on my live streams. So, the biggest evolution of myself, at least from my own perspective, was the highly egotistical person I was in the beginning. People had put me on a pedestal. They had treated me with a respect I hadn't had my whole life. And as such, it went to my head. I think that's a relatively normal thing that people tend to think, how could that happen? It happens, trust me. When people try to tell you you're the source, you're the guy, and then you think, I gotta be the guy, I'm gonna be the guy. Sometimes you try to let your status overcome your expertise. And that's something that I've backed away from and let people who have expertise in certain topics definitely take the front line when it comes to providing information to the community, whether it be members of the Balanced Discord and all their theory crafting on the various jobs, or guide makers working on different aspects or different angles on different guides, whether it be a job, a fight, whatever it is. I never thought I was the best. I never thought I was better than anyone, but I felt like I had to be the one with the right answers all the time. Now, I just pass off people to other people who have spent the time, who have the expertise, who have the know-how to get them the information that is the most accurate it can be, as opposed to just pushing out information that appears to be accurate or seems to be valid just because it's coming from my point of view. As I said with the other question, one of the biggest problems still comes from being a week one guide maker, something I've shied away from so much that it's really hampered my guide release schedule, which has fucked with my head because it makes me think, oh, should I even be doing guides anymore, as much as I enjoy doing them. But fortunately, I've had some good guides over the course of Shadowbringers, just not very timely ones that I'm very happy with the finished result of, and that is the thing that needs to matter more to me. I need to be happy with the result, and I also need to take into account that I probably should be saying things like, this is a week one strat, this is not gospel, making sure people don't treat it like it is, because one of the worst things I ever saw when I was first starting out in 2.x was when people would say you have to do it this way in this video and there's no other way to do it, even when better strats were found. I never encouraged that, but it was something that just strictly by releasing a video, I put it out into the world that people had to do it this way. Wasn't my intention, but it was the result. So I've dealt with this by just focusing on improving myself and my vision on my own content. People who enjoy it can enjoy it. People who don't won't, and I need to accept that. It doesn't need to be the best out there. It doesn't need to be the only thing out there. It just needs to be mine. It needs to be my expression. It needs to be my content, and that is the thing that matters to me more than anything. Focusing on that has kept me in a healthy state of mind, and then I can just focus on things that are in my own personal life, spending time with my girlfriend, taking care of my cat, anything else that comes in between those things. It's not really much in 2020 since I don't have a lot of traveling. Emails, sponsorships, whatever it is I'm going to be taking on. Lets me focus on the things that let me improve my life and not focus on only the negatives, which I 100% did for the first year and a half or 2 years of content releasing on YouTube and Twitch. Hashtag Mr. Happy Mondays. Hello, a question and a comment, as well as I hope this raid tier will be great. Fingers crossed that it's a decent one. Have a decent third fight. At the very least, a decent third fight. First, you made a lot of guides over the years, but I know one of the best guides you put out is the Orbone Patch Day Blind Run. It gives an unfiltered view of your reactions to various mechanics and the thought process behind figuring things out yourself. Personally, I feel like I've grown more as a player from these types of videos from any guide. This is a big reason why I actually love releasing in prog videos nowadays, because a lot of the times we come to a point where we realize what we've seen, what to do, and I find that information can be quite valuable. Even running through normal modes, I actually like to upload my normal mode day one clears as well, because it at least gives somebody an idea, oh, I saw it, I might die to it, but I'll realize what I had to do, and extrapolating that is something people have, as you've done, expressed an interest in. So I've expressed an increased interest in how we absorb things, how we see things. And I hope to do more of those videos in the future, even if they're dedicated discussions versus just releasing a blind run. My question is partially related to this. Plenty of people want to upload their clear runs whenever the newest content is, but there are videos of prog. But where are the videos of prog or being stumped by new mechanics? I noticed Tate and Oreo are pretty good at uploading their whole prog runs, which I'm thankful for. But what of older tiers? Seeing how week one Ukab prog went would be a real interesting, or Alphascape even. So again, if you actually look back at my Uwu prog, you'll see a lot of what you're requesting here. And I think there is a space for more people to be willing to do this. One big thing was with the Epic of Alexander. We saw that TPS, because they had finished the tier so much in advance, they'd actually prepped a bunch of videos to release of them seeing a mechanic or figuring out a mechanic for the first time, for after people who were publicly streaming it had actually completed that content. I love that approach, and I hope to see Sphia and TPS do more of that in the future as frontrunners of the world race in both Savage and Ultimate. I think it's valuable to the community, and I hope that that continues. The problem is a lot of people are looking for answers on how to win, are not curious about failure. I mean, I've released clips before of me getting killed by a mechanic and going, oh, that's how it works. That's not that bad. But I just died to it. So the irony of it is I'm saying it's not bad. I'm saying it doesn't seem that hard. But I just died. And I've been criticized for that in the past. I've also been criticized for including screw-ups of mechanics in guides. Like, if you die, this will happen. and using a clip of me dying, as opposed to showing a clip of me doing it successfully, even if I do also include a clip of me doing it successfully. All sorts of criticisms, different people look for different things. Some people find it valuable to see those kind of scripts. Some people think it's ridiculous because they just want to see how to do it successfully. Can't make everyone happy. Going back to the last question, can't make everyone happy. But I'll be doing my best this patch. I have a dead-eye mindset when it comes to, I'm going to be just releasing, and hopefully everyone has a little bit of everything in the content that I'm releasing for this upcoming patch. Hashtag Mrhappy Mondays, hi, hey. Question relating to Final Fantasy VII, 14, and Final Fantasy in general. 14 is the only Final Fantasy I've played until 7 Remake came out. 7 Remake, Cloud gets headache visions, which remind me of the Warrior of Light in 14 getting hit by echo visions. Is echo a common headache occurrence in the Final Fantasy games, or is it just a coincidence? It's more of a trope, kind of, just in anime or even just Eastern-style games. To have amnesia about events, to have flashbacks to events, to have some sort of foresight. It's just kind of a very cliche thing that's not really exclusive to Final Fantasy, but you'll see it in a lot of media. It's not even just Eastern media. I feel like I pay attention to, Eastern games a lot more than Western games, but it's not something that's, I guess, really exclusive to either or. So, it's not really a Final Fantasy thing, but Final Fantasy does use flashbacks very frequently in their games. So I guess you could kind of think of it like that. The shaded tone over the screen that makes you aware that it's not something that's current. They do that a lot. So wouldn't say the echo is a common occurrence, but flashbacks are a common occurrence, and the echo is kind of just our superpower in Final Fantasy XIV that emulates that. Hashtag Mrhappy Mondays. How goes, Mr. Happy? I'll take that as a hello, and hello to you too. Hope you've been well. I hope the same for you. I've been following your 14 content for a long time. Thank you. Started in closed beta and remember your week 1. Oh man, I was just going over those the other day. Oh boy. Good times. Yeah, if you say so. 14 now feels like it's in the best state it's ever been, but are there any abilities or features you wish they didn't remove that could still fit in today, such as Flaming Arrow, One Ill Punch, Diversion? All had their valid reasons for being removed, but I look back with rose-tinted glasses. So there's something you feel was removed without good enough reason that would benefit the game to bring back in the future. There's one thing, and one thing only. So actually, I have a real answer and a meme answer. I was about to lead into the meme answer, but I'll go with the real answer. This actually goes to 1.x. You could request other people to repair your gear. Now, it doesn't really matter that much in Final Fantasy XIV, but there are plenty of times in a raid where somebody forgets to repair. They don't have crafter's level. Somebody else could maybe do it for them. It would be fantastic if that was a possibility again. So that's going back to 1.x, which had that feature, and 2.x does not. My meme answer that I was going to lean into was actually going to be, you mentioned Flaming Arrow. I think of a different bard skill altogether. I want Wide Volley back. I don't like Quick Knock. I'd rather have Wide Volley. Please stop giving ranged physical DPS conal AoEs. Dancer has circular AoEs. Let's get circular AoEs across the board. Stop doing conal AoEs. Bring me back Quick Volley and Granado Shot while we're at it. Hashtag Mrhappy Mondays. Hello, how are you? Hello? I'm doing fine. Hope the same for you. I'm good, but I have a savage dilemma. I have a part of a small FCU who's mostly inactive casual players. I've never done any extremes or savage raids, and I'd really like to try out the new tier. Can you give some advice for a casual player who wants to try the more challenging content? Black Mage is item level 500. I've done all the normal modes. Where should I go from there? So, this depends on what you kind of want out of your raiding experience. First of all, good thing your item level is 500. Be ready to buy crafted gear when the new raid comes out. That's going to be expensive, but it'll bump your item level to 510, which is of a major advantage in hopping into a savage tier early. It gives you a little bit more room to screw up. It means that if you're not super comfortable about your rotation, you at least have a little bit of a boost to what you are outputting, and it's just better overall to have that little bit of an item level boost. That being said, do you want to do fights blind, or are you okay with watching guides? Day 1, everyone's going to be blind, but as soon as information starts circulating, guides start circulating, anything starts circulating, people are going to expect you to probably have watched a guide. So if you want to go in guideless, you do really want a group of friends or to be doing it day 1, regardless of what your experience is. However, if you're okay with watching guides, it's just a matter of hopping in parties that are for learning or making your own learning parties. The best time to try Savage or Extreme is when they are brand new in the first week. Even if you have no experience prior, that is the time to hop in and try it for the first time. If you're just not happy with your performance and don't want to continue, maybe try again another point. You always have that option. If you feel like you're enjoying it, you want to improve, and you want to get into it more, Party Finder's still there. Learning Party's still there. You can always make your own. And that's how it's going to evolve. This is how most raiders I know get into the scene, is by hopping in as early as possible. So that is probably going to be what you want to do. I'd also advise, if you're in a small free company, if you have access to purchasing free company actions, that for that week, you turn on Meat and Mead 2 and Back on Your Feet 2. Meat and Mead will make it so the food that you buy lasts 10 minutes longer if you just have the tier 2 buff. If you have the tier 3 buff, cool, extra 15 minutes. And Back on Your Feet will reduce your weakness timer, which is great for progressing in the first week. If you have the Grand Company equivalents from your squadrons, you can use those instead. But obviously the free company actions last 24 hours, and even though they're a little bit weaker than the squadron actions, it won't matter that much in the grand scheme of things. And I accidentally almost skipped this one when I started reading that question. I thought it was this one, then I realized I was reading the one below it. Hashtag Mr. Happy Mondays. Hi. Hey. I remember in a previous episode of State of the Realm was mentioned that each legion, is based on the game they've been numbered after, and each legatus was somehow based off of something in that main game. Is this true? For instance, Regula is the leader of the 6th, but I can't think of anything that ties into Khefgar or any of the main cast. Regula would represent Leo. General Leo is the person he is closest to in terms of his mannerisms and his loyalties and whatnot. Now, he doesn't get to play out any of their effective arcs because the way he's treated during the Warring Triad kind of doesn't leave room for that. Nail represents Sephiroth. Actually has a straight up Sephiroth scene from 1.x, walking through blue fire with her hands out like this. She also drops a meteor on Eorzea, very much in tune with that. We go over to the 4th Legion and we have Gabranth. Now, we've yet to really see, Gabranth would normally be tied to the 12th if we were trying to be 100% accurate, but the 4th still leaves a lot of room for this kind of thing to be moved away from. It seems like something they were really committed to earlier on, and they've moved further and further away. Guys being the 14th, his was exclusive to 14, there's nothing to judge it off of, and he's continued to be a pretty major factor in the game. Looking at the 12th with Varys, we're still waiting to see how this pans out with his overall story. There are some things that are drawn in terms of comparison, some characteristics, some goals, but Xenos is pretty unique at this point. And again, it feels like the longer they've moved on, the more they've kind of shifted away from this. But our descriptions of the other legati, or if that even is the plural, I think that's actually the singular, the other legatuses, kind of leads us to believe that this was once the idea, but is not so much the idea anymore. So consider that with a grain of salt. You can find overlap in characteristics between them, but that's because they're all raving maniacs, and Final Fantasy is full of raving maniacs. So we have to see. There's still more to be determined. We also have to look at Valens and see him, because technically the 7th, but we had somebody for the 7th already. So is Valens going to be our Hojo equivalent? Kind of makes sense given his obsession with the weapons and his really weird demeanor. But I don't remember, Hojo chilled on the beach with some ladies in bikinis. This dude's doing push-ups in front of kids and drinking milk. So I don't really see the overlap there either. So we'll see if Valens has anything to do. He's got that kind of crazy Hojo vibe to him still a little bit. Next one, hashtag Mr. Happy Mondays. Hi. Hey. Hope the wait for 5.4 isn't driving me too mad. I got Genshin. I got Dauntless. It does kind of suck. I didn't get to play Immortals, Phoenix Rising. Cyberpunk's coming out a day after. So some things kind of suck that they're timed around this. But it is what it is. Not much we can do about that. My question was prompted by the preliminary notes, and how your reaction to a specific part was very similar. Do you think the duty recorder was the biggest waste of a system they've ever implemented? And if not, which do you think is? When it was added, I had high hopes for it being used for optimization in Savage and Ultimate, but they constantly refused to even ever have it usable in content when it's current and would be useful. I'm going to agree. It's as a content creator, it's a big disappointment, because I was going to use it for guides. It would be incredible with the ability to like go back and zoom through and get different angles of the arena, but it's not on things I can use it on. It's on like one fight, 2 fights out of any single thing, and it's never something that like I'm going to be using it for. And then they get outdated super quick. Like they're not even good for like past the past. It's a system that's all over the place. I was really excited for it, and I'm not anymore. I just have no hope for that system, and I don't know that they'll ever improve it. But, that's not going to stop me. It's just disappointing. Hashtag Mr. Happy Mondays. Hey, Haps, how you doing? I'm doing all right. You doing all right? I'm doing all right. What question, I'm assuming you mean your question, has to do with FanFest. So I started playing very late in a Stormblood, never seen a FanFest. My question is, since we didn't get the first 2 FanFests due to COVID, what information would normally we have had in regards to those first 2? So the North American Fan Fest is the most high-level understanding that you could possibly have, meaning that it's all surface-level details. This is the theme of the raid. This is the theme of the 24-man. This is the name of the expansion. Here's a short teaser on it. You know, we're going to be getting new jobs. We're not going to tell you about the new jobs, but we're getting new jobs. Here's some updates coming to 4.55 while we're at it, because might as well throw those in there. And it's just to get people going, ooh, I want to know more. The second Fan Fest, we get usually information about a job. It's usually something they've teased lightly in the previous thing or in interviews between the first and the second live letter. We also get a little bit more information about specific things. For example, we may find out that there's a specific guest developer on at that point. We may get more details about specifically the 8-man raids or the primals or new quality of life that we didn't know we were getting from the time before. And then the third one usually wraps up most everything, with there then being a media tour several months later that will actually go in depth into job change details and updated systems and miscellaneous stuff they may not have mentioned. We've also gotten announcements such as at the North American Fan Festival when the PlayStation 3 version would be discontinued and when they would be discontinuing support for the 32-bit version. So some technical stuff usually towards the end of the North American version as well. The one thing that also normally happens is a concert, but that's no longer live streamed, so I don't know that they'll do anything in the concert area for the upcoming stuff. Maybe for the digital one, if they can find a means to actually coordinate it and make it so that they won't have any sort of DMCA problems. Even though it's their own content, it's still a little bit weird, especially with Japan's music laws, for them to live stream those concerts nowadays, especially if they want to do them in a very accessible manner like with Twitch. I won't be surprised to see them come up with their own video player or something for the digital Fan Fest, so that way people can privately enjoy those concerts in a safe environment. But we'll see what they have planned. All right, hashtag Mr. Happy Mondays. Hi, Haps. Hope you're doing well. I hope the same for you. Two quick questions for you. One serious and one not so much. Koopa. Oh, no, Moogles. No. One with the ability to reshuffle and redistribution that comes with new expansions. Do you think they'll ever retcon or rewrite lore for certain jobs for the sake of moving abilities to earlier levels, i.e. Summoner with Dreadworm Trance? I don't think they'll ever bother rewriting the lore to do that. I think they'll just do it at some point if they really, really want to. I'm more for them rewriting lore in a sense. It doesn't even really have to be that big of a rewrite or a retcon to remove classes. Classes are so integrated into the game that when and if they ever do it, it's going to be kind of a big deal for them in terms of the development cost and the effort that it will take. That being said, I think that just rewriting it so that jobs that when you're a low-level version of a job, you haven't really unlocked your full potential yet or something like that. And just giving it that sort of lore giveaway to just be like, oh, even though 1 to 30 I'm a summoner, I have to go through this Arcanist training before I can really unlock Summoner, like the true art of Summoner. So something like that, but maybe not for abilities. I don't think they'll rewrite it just for abilities. 2, unless he makes an appearance in E12, do you think Good King Magamog will ever start being the black sheep of the Realm-Reborn Primals? No, and he should stay the hell away from any content I want to do, because he sucks. Hashtag Mr. Happy Mondays. Hi, Haps. Hello, and happy holidays to you as well. Busy time with the new raids and Cyberpunk. I don't want to even go back to the topic again of everything that's coming out. I just want to move on. I need to get to 5.4. Quick question. Last year, I find that as a tank and Savage, I don't die as much, but every time I screw up, I take more heat and blame during practice. Yet in the past, when I was Black Mage, I died a lot more, but people just didn't blame me nearly as much. Just wondering whether that's the tank role, and if it's specific to the last raid tier, or whether I should just go back to Black Mage this tier. So the reason why a tank takes more flame, imagine if you are defending a castle, right? And the wall is your tank, and the archers that stand behind the wall is your Black Mage. Now imagine if the wall, it just crumbled, it just fell over with no effort whatsoever, and the archer just gets killed. Yeah, I think no one's going to be blaming the archer for not shooting the troops that are coming forward. They're going to be blaming the wall for not being as sturdy as it could have been. Same goes for a tank. If the tank goes, then the other tank is your backup, and depends on what part of the fight that is. It may not even be recoverable at that point. But if the Black Mage goes, you're like, okay, DPS died, get up. Just make sure they're up in time for the next mechanic. And that's it. There's one of them has a bigger fallout for screwing up than the other. And so you're going to take naturally more heat, more blame. Now, of course, if you're a DPS, if you're on the flip side, if you're an archer and you can't land a single shot with your arrow in that same situation, then you're really not helping the case. So that's the other way to get flamed as a DPS, is to essentially be dead weight and do no DPS, while just doing your best to survive. So there are caveats to these things, but yeah, that's definitely not exclusive to the last raid tier. That's anytime a tank is, you know, screwing up and it kills everyone else, it's definitely going to go towards being a problem for them, being a problem for everyone. Hashtag Mr. Happy Mondays. Let me scroll up a little bit so it's actually in frame. Hey, Haps. Hope you're doing all right as we wait for the patch. I am, and I hope the same for you. Let me say first, thanks for answering my one question a few weeks back regarding my buddy's performance anxiety. Directed him directly to your clip. I think you really took it to heart. Good. And I wish the best for him because people really overthink, really overthink their performance when they have performance anxiety. I mean, that's what performance anxiety is. And sometimes you just need to be told that, it's not as bad as you're thinking it's going to be. Anyway, moving on. I managed to finish Final Fantasy VIII, and I wanted to have it done prior to Eden's Promise. I abused the junction system the entire game up until I hit a wall on Ultimecia for just picking random party members. Rather than hoping RNG would favor picking my main team, I spent a good hour reworking my Guardian forces and junctions. My question is if you ever hit a similar wall in a game that made you rethink how you were playing and change. Final boss. I mean, super bosses are always cheese as hell. Every time I go into a super boss, I just start insta-killing people. I'm like, all right, well, clearly I got to do something different. And that's just how super bosses are. I mean, they all have some... I'll tell you this. You know what made me somewhat rethink it, but only because I had to be really annoyingly specific with my decisions? Freaking Penance in Final Fantasy X. That's the worst... I'm sorry, it's not the worst. It's one of the worst super bosses I've ever had the unfortunate privilege of encountering. It's just not fun. It's a slow, balanced game with destroying the hands a certain number of turns apart, and it's just so freaking tedious. I just Zamato that bitch in the remasters because I'm like, I'm not doing this shit again. This shit is way too boring. But there's all sorts of things. Well, one thing that really got me racking my brain, even though it was a kind of less control. Final Fantasy VIII, I did a no junction run. I actually didn't finish it. I'm on Ultimecia, but because Ultimecia is such a huge RNG fest with not even just who actually appears in the party, but getting the limit breaks I need at the correct time. And I need very specific ones on characters that I cannot guarantee, such as getting the end on Selphie or making sure that I get invincibility on Rinoa. It's all sorts of problems. But for the whole rest of the game, I had to really consider how I was going to tackle certain phases, how quick my actions were. And that was kind of fun. But I wouldn't say no. I'd say sometimes things encourage me to learn systems of the game I've otherwise ignored up to a point. But other than super bosses, I don't ever feel like I need to go back to the drawing board, if that makes sense. Hashtag Mr. Happy Mondays. Hi, Happy. Hope you're well and all set for Christmas. Well, I'm getting my cat some gifts. I'm getting my girlfriend gifts, and that's pretty much it. So I'm pretty easy to be set. Hopefully yours is as easy as mine is. One, currently upgrading some parts of my equipment, and I already have the SteelSeries. Hey, Art, you already have the SteelSeries Arctis 7 headset with 2 gaming channels on it? Good. Looking for either an Apex Pro or Apex 7. However, having just changed from PC to PS4, I don't understand the Switch difference. It will be mainly used for stuff alongside gaming to move away from controller and keyboard and mouse. I'd say that if you don't understand the Switch differences, don't worry about them. Because quite frankly, it's down to feel for me for the most part. I don't really care about the actual differences. Some of them are better for more clicks. Some of them are louder. Some of them are softer. I have, I believe, brown switches in my Apex Pro, and it still makes the clickety-clack, but I believe the red switches were more clickety-clacky, and I kind of like that, so... actually, no, I think I have red switches. I don't even know anymore, dude. I don't pay attention. It's like with monitors. Like, everyone's always like, oh, how many hertz do you have in the monitor? What's this or what's that? A lot of things like that just don't matter to me. It needs to feel good. It needs to work, and that is the most important thing. I use the Apex Pro. It sounds good. It feels good. It works. I don't have any issues with it. That's all it really needs to mean to me. I don't care that much about the switches or anything else in between. 2, being from New Jersey, are you a Giants or a Jet fan? So you do not follow football? I don't follow any sports. I don't care about any sports. My dad tried to force me to be into baseball as a kid. Like, I got signed up for T-ball and all that stuff. And it was clear I wasn't meant for that. I was like, nah, dude, I'm video games all day, every day. I was esports. Let's do esports. I was competitive as a kid, but just not in anything but video games. So I never cared. Every time my family would yell about sports, I'd be like, shut up. I'm gaming over here. I can't hear the sound of my game over all these sports. And yeah, so I moved on. Thanks for all your content and good luck in E912. Same to you. All right, there's actually a bunch of other questions, but there's like a really negative tone to a lot of them. So I'm gonna do them all in the lightning round here. Let's see. The Q pops tank text in chat saying he or she is leaving because the healer is not geared well enough for a big pull and leaves. That's not even a question there, but that happens. I don't think it's happening at an alarming rate, but I will say that definitely happens. Tank can't handle it, move on. If the tank doesn't want to go slower and just to make sure the healer can keep up, then that's their problem. I mean, they're the ones who are going to take the 30-minute leave penalty, so that is what it is. Not much you can really do about that. What's this one? 5.2, The Disaster of True North and Ilya Forsaken. Dude, those have been around, things like that. I want to say something about Ilya, about the Ilya strat, by the way. Somebody who's done content for years, what they say about the Ilya strat is very reminiscent to week 1 strats when I came up with them. People need to understand. When a strat comes out week 1, when someone presents you with a method with which they have beaten the fight, they are not presenting you with the only method with which it can be done. It doesn't matter what becomes the norm. It doesn't matter what people learn first. That's not what is being portrayed in guides. So Ilya's strategy, very valid, very close to what I used in week 1, little different, but very close to it, is a workable strat that got people clears. Was it the best? Was it melee friendly? No. People need to understand the difference and not shit on the person so much for a strategy they came up with. I think it's hilarious when people say they want to do parse runs and they do Ilya, because those two don't go together, those two ideas. But I don't want to shit on the individual. This is something that I see happening, and it's like, understand, you can say the strategy's not good, you don't like it, but don't shit on the individual who made it. They presented you with an option early that got people through, and improving it is a good thing to do, but it doesn't require shitting on the original person who made the strat. And I don't want to see that with Ilya. I don't like seeing it ever. I've been a victim of it for years with people coming in and putting very hateful messages and sending me emails and all sorts of things regarding those. I hate seeing it, and I hope that doesn't happen. I'm becoming a lot more skeptical regarding any week 1 to 5 strats. You can win with those strats. People just have to be willing. The problem is people aren't willing to improve. I tried to wait 2 weeks before I released my first video to see what the party finder considered normal, what improvements could be made before releasing a guide. You know what happens? It takes months before people start to slowly adjust to new strats. It takes people going into the party finder and forcing people to learn something new, even if they don't want to. And it's a very slow grind. You know how long it took for it to go from Ilya to Sharingan on Ether? And even now there's still Ilya parties, even though people always do what you've just done and, say how it's a disaster. It's not a disaster. People just need to be, there's a difference between being willing to play more effectively and just wanting a win. And those ideologies clash a lot in the party finder. So I'm going to approach this tier with week 1 guides that say, this is not gospel. If you can't improve, that's not my problem. I'm not going to be held responsible for people refusing to learn something new. Because if anything, what the Ilya release has showed people is it doesn't matter who releases the guide first. Somebody's getting blamed for not having the best strategy out the gate. And those people can fuck right off. That's what I have to say about that one. Moving on to the next one in the lightning round, which is hardly a lightning round at this point. Now for the question, why do you think the game does a poor job at showing us numerical data for the game? I think they don't want us to get caught up in the numerical data. People are caught up in it. But I think the idea is that if people are too caught up in that, it becomes another vessel with which to harass people when they don't make decisions. Because if all of that data is available in-game, you can very easily harass someone for making a decision that differs from yours. Now, I don't agree with that. I would love more numerical data. I think critical hit rate should show what your crit hit rate is, what your critical damage bonus is, so you can make more informed decisions. But there's tons of people out there who ruin that by using it as a tool of harassment. There's all sorts of things that they could really do with that one, but I don't think they'll change it, and that's upsetting, because I would really like to see them make an improvement on this one. Why do you think the dev team seem intent on completely shafting physical range? Just so you know, I have read that entire comment. That's why I left it for the lightning round. So I don't need to cover the number of examples, FF logs, all that stuff that's actually listed here. I don't think they've necessarily shafted physical range. I think they've put too much onus on the fact that they have a raid-wide damage reduction. I think that needs to be taken a little bit less out of the account. I think the mobility needs to be taken less out of account. Because at the bottom line, as you've stated here, sometimes melees can underperform, and still overperform other roles. But I'll say that I've done Machinist, I've done Dancer. I don't ever feel bad about my contribution to the group. I am a 1% damage boost, of course. That's the main reason why you bring Ranged Physical. Everyone wants that 1% damage boost from having the various different roles. As Dancer, I've done my Curing Waltzes at great times to help out healers. It's an extra indom if everyone's stacked up, essentially. I've got my my mobility so I can play a little bit recklessly. I can make up for mistakes. I've got room to recover in that regard. I've got my damage reduction. All the Ranged Physical have it, but it's still something that's considered quite valuable. And then I do have other tools on Dancer. Of course, people like to fight over Dance Partner. It's fun. And all that matters in this game is that you have fun. Because one thing that I'll tell you doesn't matter in this game is what job you play. You can play anything, be anything, and that should be the only thing that matters. And don't get me wrong, you can look at numbers and be like, oh, it'd be really good if we improve this. You know, Wildfire doesn't feel great, or, you know, maybe this control's kind of funky, or I don't think this is contributing enough given what the other roles can do. I think it's a fine discussion, but there's a fine line between having that discussion and using it as a tool to exclude jobs from content. And I feel like that line is walked a little bit too much, and people take it a little too seriously. So I try not to encourage that discussion outside of just pointing out, yeah, this could be a little bit better. I like to make sure the wording is very sound so that you can play anything and beat anything in the game. Someone asked me what I thought the second boss would be, and they made mention of a few names. I don't really have much to say about that. My headcanon is the second boss of Eden's Promise is Griever, and that's what our Griever is going to look like. But I will give your comments some merits. It does do some good research, especially on the Deep Shadow sword that is wielded, being similar to the one that the Shadowkeeper uses. So there might be a bit of a tie-in there, especially given that Laxen Loft is a center point of those role quests later. Somebody was asking about going back and doing the story. New Game Plus is there, and it has been updated for the most part, and has a bunch of stuff that you can use for that. There's one that is a speculatory question that I don't really have much to offer. It was just, what do you think the plan is at the end? And I really don't have much to add to the entirety of that question, so I have a hard time answering it. I think that was the last one. Somebody asked me who or what is Evre. In Final Fantasy X, it was a dragon that attacks the airship. It was basically the Shinryu stand-in for Final Fantasy X. It had the same model. I even think that in the battle arena, you fight that exact model, and it's called Shinryu, if I'm not misremembering. So the fact that we see in the trailer this Bahamut Nidhogg looking combination abomination thing in the place where we defeated Shinryu might lead it to be some sort of tie-in there. Nidhogg's eyes, Shinryu the dragon. There's all sorts of things that could tie in. And Evre being a stand-in for Shinryu, even if it has Bahamut's model, would be it'd be an understandable leap to get there. And I think that was the last one that I wanted to take when it came to the lightning round questions. But with that, it's time I went and got something to eat and did some damn cooking, because we got a hell of a week ahead of us with tons of content releases, those week one guides, those week one kill videos, clear videos, all sorts of stuff. Of course, we'll have our patch note video. We will have our State of the Realm, assuming I beat the raid before Friday. Hopefully I will. And with that, thanks everyone for tuning into this week's episode of Mondays with Mr. Happy. Be sure to ask your questions in the comment section of the video below. I suspect we'll need a lot of spoiler tags for next week's episode, which means if you don't want spoilers, then make sure you are very carefully scrolling through this week's episode. If you want to ask a question and you don't know if there's spoilers, just ask the question, and if it's there twice, that's fine. I'll just acknowledge it in the video. You won't have to worry about it. Thanks everyone for watching. I will see you all in the next video. And until then, take care.